as I said last week, a synopsis of the whole Shar Aleph. Zeis Teres Adam Shabeis Askei Batera Lishma. And when a person learns Torah Lishma, Lishmar L'Kayim Kechol HaKasuba, and he's careful. What does Lishma mean? Says the Nefesh Hachaim. Lishmar L'Kayim Kechol HaKasuba. The Lishma that he's talking about here is that I'm learning for the purpose, not an intellectual exercise, but for the purpose of Lishmar L'Kayim Kechol HaKasuba. So when he does that, Matayra Skufay Mirosha Vad Raglav, that creates a Tahara Mirosha Vad Raglav. This is a taking off on what he said in the previous prakim, that that the way Neshama, Ruach, Nefesh, that you have to be Mekadosh the whole Nefesh, from head to toe. By Adam Arishan it says even the tips of his feet were shining. What it means is that Torah has to permeate a person from head to toe. The only way to do that, he says at the end here, is through Torah, which we're going to explain. Midrashim Zal, we learned this Gemara inside. Be'iyun lama nismachu ahalim lenachalim, that by when Bilam spoke, he said, Matoivu ahalecha Yaakov, oichalecha Yaakov mishkanoisecha Yisrael, kin cholim nitayu ka'ahalois alemayim ka'arazim. And the Gemara asks, and we explain this according to the Machlekes Rashi and Tosfos, that lama nismachu oihalim lenachalim is referring to Matoivu oihalecha Yaakov, not talking about ka'ahalim in itayu, because those are spices. But oihalim, Matoivu oihalecha Yaakov, mishkanoisecha Yisrael, kinachalim. The Torah oil, which is oilim, is the oil of Shem Ve'ever, is has the same power as nechalim as a mikvah. That's what we learned. So let's go further. Okay, so again, what we're talking about here is the comparison between a mikvah and Torah, which is an interesting comparison because we're moving from Tumah and Tara to what the Gemara calls Malin Mekaf Choyva L'Kaf Schus. In other words, Torah is not Matahir you, but it's Mezaka you. So by mikvah it says, Kinyan Shadarshu Chazal Gabi Taras Tmeim B'mikvah Kol B'sari B'mayim. The halacha by mikvah is that it has to be Kol B'sari B'mayim. You have to be completely immersed in the mikvah. So everybody knows that if there's one finger sticking out, even one hair that's not in the mikvah, the tevilah is not kosher. For some reason, it has to be Kol B'sari B'mayim. Mayim Shekol Gufay Oila B'hem. Your whole body has to be. The idea is you have to be completely surrounded by mayim. So if we're learning now that Torah, Matoivu Alecha Yaakov, has the same din of mikvah, so it means that just like the mikvah you can't have sar achas b'chutz, so the same thing Torah can't even have sar achas b'chutz. What I want to know today is, what does that mean? What does it mean? Here we're learning Torah. Anybody have sar achas b'chutz?
Not totally committed.
Not committed to.
There's a part of you that's not getting into it.
Right.
The same way the part of your body.
So you're talking about like a cynical sort of a learning, or intellectual learning without.
A person can learn Torah, but not allow the Torah to enter a certain part of his life.
Right.
So how do you understand? It's mashma that Shiloh Shema.
At least you're getting in the water.
Yeah. Not the fact that you're not all there.
They always say this over from the Chavetz Chaim. They always say that the Chavetz Chaim said he's not so impressed with somebody who's gone through the whole Torah. He's very impressed that the whole Torah has gone through him. There's just on a practical level, I'm just trying to understand what you're saying. You're not so into it. You're learning?
You're learning it, but you're not committed that it's going to change you.
Right. Oh, so now now you're saying a different thing. That am I open to change? So what we have here is Taras Kol B'sar B'mayim, Mayim Shekol Gufay Oila B'hem. Kach B'divrei Torah, Kol Gufay Shel Adam Oila B'hem. Same thing as when you learn Torah, Kol Gufay Shel Adam Oila. V'Shir Al Chachamim, now this is interesting. Shi'aru Chachamim, the Chachamim were Meshayir, I mean they measured Amma alama barum shalosh amos, that there's a minimum shear for a mikveh. A mikveh has to be an amma al amma. Let's say an amma is 18 inches, right? So in other words, you look at a mikveh is much bigger. That's 10 times the size of this. But an actual mikveh has to be, let's say on this table, let's say from here to here, let's say that's an amma, right? An amma square, and it has to be 3 ammas deep, 54 inches. That's the Roiv Gufay Shalom, and that's where you have to get into. Chazal went further and they said that that's our boim sa. Just learn a little Hilchos Mikvahs. That's the same as 40 sa of water. Meaning, if you want to know the liquid measurement for amma, al amma, barum, gimel amma, you're talking about 200 gallons of water. So think 200 gallons of milk, right? Or if they come in a liter size, 800 liters of milk. That's pretty much our boim sa, which would take up the space of amma al amma, barum al amma. So where's all that coming from? Gufay Shalom. It has to do, a mikveh has to be one that a person can tovel into. So those are Nefesh Hachaim in Kabbalistic style. Shira Chachamim, Amma Lama Barum Shalosh Amos Hein. What does that mean? Hagimel Olamos. We know that we're in the world of Asiya, and from Asiya on top of us is the world of Yetzira, and on top of that is the world of Bria. So the Gimel Amos that we're talking about, besides for what you're going into, we're talking about making a tikkun for yourself, a tikkun in the world of Asiya, which is the world we live in, a tikkun in the world of our formation, and a tikkun in the world of our creation. Bria, Yetzira, Asiya. We're not making tikkunim in the world of Atzilus, because Atzilus is already Mesukam. So Abia is Atzilus, Bria, Yetzira, Asiya. So he's saying a drush here, which by the way, I don't know if it's his original thing, I couldn't find it anywhere. It doesn't sound like something that's original, but he just says it, that it means that we're talking being misak in 3 worlds. Also it means Hein Hagimel Olamis Vidnaran. There's also Nefesh, Ruach, Neshama, another trifecta. So Nefesh is where we are, Nefesh, us. Ruach is, and then Neshama. And remember, always keep in mind the mashal of Nefesh Hachaim. The way our life works is that HaKadosh Baruch Hu begins like a wind blower, like a glass blower. HaKadosh Baruch Hu is blowing into the pipe from one end, and our nefesh is, let's say, the glass in the mashal coming out the other end. So you have the nefesh, which is us, vayipach ba'ap of nishmas chaim. So the neshama, according to Nefesh Hachaim, I believe the Balatanya argues with this point, but according to the Nefesh Hachaim, the neshama doesn't get inside of us. You know, people say, "Where's my neshama?" or "My neshama." Like depends. In neshama, well, we're having hashpa from a neshama. The neshama is actually in shamayim. We are a nefesh. The neshama is not here. People say, "Well, what is a neshama?" When you die, you lose your neshama. No, when you die, you lose your nefesh. You lose your ruach. Neshama maybe stays. There's hasharis on nefesh, hasharis on neshama. Who knows? But it's nefesh, ruach, neshama. So the ruach's in the pipe, right? So the ruach's in the pipe. It belongs kind of half to the glass and half to the glass blower. The neshama belongs to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and the nefesh is ours. Nefesh ki yechta, and this is what we've been learning, that if a person is in his nefesh is yechta, he's disconnecting himself from the source of life, which is the ruach, which is the neshama. That's kares. We've learned this over and over again. And the Balatanya, the reason I say it's a machlekes is the Balatanya starts off one of the prakim by saying haneshama yoyredes l'toich haguf. That's the lashon of the Balatanya. Haneshama yoyredes l'toich haguf. This also might be an essential difference between Hasidus and not Hasidus. Whether we are, remember I spoke about Kalim and Atzmius, whether we are actually walking pieces of God, or whether we're a Keli, is the Nefesh a Keli. Okay. So the 3 amos in Chazal, which simple pshat means that it's 3 amos deep, is saying it also means Asiya, Yetzira, and Bria. It also means Nefesh, Ruach, Neshama, and a third one, so it's 3 times 3, it also means Maisa, Dibur, Machshava, going up. Right? Maisa, what I do, Dibur, Machshava. What about all these things? Torah. What about all these things? In other words, when a person is learning Torah and immersed in Torah completely, so not only are you masakin yourself, but you're also masakin 3 worlds, and you're also masakin your ruach and neshama, and you're also masakin your machshava, dibur, umaisa. Those are the words that we're learning. Yeah, I just want to go, before I try to understand this, what does it really mean practically? I just want to go on a little bit of a tangent. Interesting thing. That when it comes to Tahara, we learned you have to go into a mikveh. There's actually, in the Chumash, there's 3 ways to be matahir yourself. Person's tameh, depending on the tumah, there's 3 ways to be matahir yourself. One way, which we use now because we're choshish for tumas zov, is a mikveh. You go into the mikveh. Another way is a mayan. A mayan is a spring. You understand that the water is coming from the earth. Yeah. Yes. Meaning that there's different halachas for a mikveh than there is for a mayan. Everything has to be kederech havayasa. Just a little hilchos mikvah is good to know. Everything has to be derech havayasa. It has to be in its natural state. So in order to make a mikveh, you have to put together 40 sah of rainwater. Rainwater, let's say it would fall in a puddle in the street, so its nature is, as an example, that there's no waves. Unless somebody's going to move it, it's there. As opposed to a mei ma'ayon, there's waves in a mei ma'ayon. If the water's coming from underneath the earth, there are waves. So the halacha is that if there are waves in a mikveh, for instance, you have the filter on or there's a leak, and it's causing, you can see the water, the rabbanim that are checking mikvahs. So what they do is they pull out like a little bit of their beard, a hair of their beard, they put it on the mikvah, and if the hair moves, mikvah's pasul. That's called zeichalin. In Hilchos mikvah, that's called zeichalin.
Even after it's already had 40 sah? What we were talking about before?
Mikvah can't be zeichalin, period.
Oh.
It can have 3,000 sah. A mikvah can't be zeichalin. It's not a matter of tumah and tara. It's a matter of it's not mei gishamim in its natural habitat. Masha ein kain. If you want to go toivel in the Mediterranean Sea, ocean, what is it? The Mediterranean Sea. So there could be waves. There are waves, but it's still a kosher tefillah. Why? Because that's mei ma'ayon. That's not being filled up by the rain. It might be supplemented by the rain, but it's not being filled up by the rain. It's being filled up by underground mayanot. So there, zeichlin is not only permitted, but it's actually a milo. Why? Because the natural habitat of a mikveh is mine. So there's 2 ways to become tar in that sense. There's a mikveh, which has to be completely still, has to be completely calm, megishamim, and then there's a ma'ayon, which is coming from the bottom, and that doesn't have to be so quick. The other thing is that a mikveh has to be arbaim sah. A ma'ayon doesn't have to be arbaim sah. There's no din of 40 sah by a ma'ayon. So let's say you have a mayon and you could fit your whole body into it, meaning you're getting wet completely, your whole body gets wet at one time. So like it could be very shallow, let's say, but it doesn't have the shear of Ama Alama Barum Gimel Amos. It doesn't have that shear. And then there's a third way to become tahar. You have mikvah, ma'ayon, and Talmidei Chachamim, you're here all morning. Mechatos. Is that what you're thinking?
Sprinkling.
Yeah, sprinkling. Sprinkling. Mechatos. So mechatos is, a person does a chet, it becomes tamei, the kohen goes and he spritzes on him water. So there's 3 types of tara in the Torah. I'm not just going on a tangent of Hilchos Mikvahs, although it might be worthwhile, it's good to know. But you have mikvah, you have mayon, you have mechatos. Interesting. There's, by mikvah,
What the Rabbi says in that order, is there a superiority to mayan or
the words of the Mishnah, sheish mailus b'mikvah. It's words of the Mishnah mikvah. Sheish mailus b'mikvah, mayon, mechatos. It depends, yes. The more chamor the tumah is, you're right on there, the more chamor the tumah is, the more immersion you need.
paraduma?
I'll get to paraduma. But v'hiza love mechatos. That's v'hiza love mechatos. That's hazah. Why? You need a paraduma man, but he's all of mechatos. So the thing is like this. So just in the Rambam, the Rambam says that when it comes to mikveh, you need memsa. When it comes to ma'ayon, you don't need memsa. You just need kol gufay. When it comes to mechatos, you don't even need kol gufa. You just need a spritz, holy water, spritz. There's probably rabbis that do that today. A squirt gun, you're tahar.
They would do that to holy regulars. They were walking down the
mechatos, yeah.
They would spritz on them, make sure that
spritz on them. So the the spritzing. So the interesting thing. If you look carefully, you'll see that there are certain nefesh kisechta. There are certain chatayim which are matame the nefesh. There's certain chatayim which are matame the ruach, and there's certain chatayim which are matame the neshama. And the three, if you look carefully in the halachos of tahara, hilchos taharos. I have to tell you something, just parenthetically. I'm the only one who can go on a tangent when I'm in the middle of a tangent. But when I was a bocher yeshiva, so I took it on myself to finish Shas, yeshiva Shas. I don't know that I knew Shas, but I finished Shas. Anyways, I learned Shas with the Chavrusa, we finished Shas. I was very a fantastic thing to do, by the way, at some point, because even though I don't remember it all, but when I come to it, I'm familiar. I know what it is. It's just a good aid to finish Shas if you have time next week. Finish it. But when it came to Taharos, I just couldn't. First of all, I guess everybody's brain is different. I couldn't wrap my brain around it, and I just didn't understand it clearly, and I frankly didn't think it was that relevant. I mean, I couldn't find anything that I could sort of hook on to remember. Many years later, when I started to learn Tzaddik, so I have a minute this is my minute, same as Shas. When you start something, finish it. So if you learn Reb Tzaddik, you look something here, you look something there. So start from the beginning and go to the end, and then you understand Reb Tzaddik. Just go through all the svarim. You don't have to, that's enough. So now, like every year, every year I pick another pirush, and I just go from beginning to end. I feel like I have a whole different havana in his derech. You can look up a Kli Yakar. You can look up an Even Ezra, but if you learn Kli Yakar from beginning to end, that's what you learn. Rashi Kli Yakar. That's how your Maber said her that year. That you have the whole mahalach of the Kli Yakar in the Chumash. You have the whole mahalach of Even Ezra. That's the derech. So I had the whole mahalach sort of like in Reb Tzaddik. All of a sudden, Taharos became the most important section of Shas in my life, because Taharos represents not the physical, like muksa, not the physical of what I'm doing, but the metaphysical and the spiritual. And I say that carefully. 3 levels: physical, metaphysical, and spiritual part. It's all Taharos, and you always, in order to understand Taharos and mikvahs, you really have to understand what you're trying to accomplish in terms of it. It opened my eyes to a whole different level. So all of a sudden, like Taharos became like the Mishnah Berurah by me. It became like that was the more Nugei L'Maisa than so many other halachos, because now first you have to understand the chet or the tumah. And once you understand the effect that something has, then you figure out how to be mitayreit. So mikol hanal, it became clear to me that the following: that if a person does a chet b'nefesh, you need a mikvah. If you do a chet b'ruach, you need a mayon. Meaning you don't need arboim sa. Arboim sa is the size of a person's nefesh, a person's guf. But when it's a matter of the ruach, so I have to get wet, but it doesn't require that kind of immersion. According to the Ravid, even a chatzitza is okay. I think that the other Rishonim argue with it. It's not ein kama koima. But there's even a machlokes Rishonim whether you're allowed to have a chatzitza by tevila. A chatzitza that's your makbid on it is you have to toivel again. A woman comes out of the mikvah, says that I forgot to take off my makeup or something, so you have to be done in hilchos chatzitza. When it comes, if she would be toivel in a ma'ayon, So then the halachas of chatzitza are very, very relaxed. Why? Because it's not a tahara of the nefesh, sof kol sof. It has to get inside, kilu, but it's only going to the ruach. I was once in Rav Scheinberg, Tzadik Levracha's house, and a woman came. I used to sit by him when the shiloh's writing down, the shiloh, like a secretary, was writing down the shilohs and shuvas. And if it was a personal thing, I'd step out, it wasn't. But this woman said that they're going away someplace on vacation, and it's going to be her leil tevila, and she doesn't have a place to toivel except for in the ocean. So is it okay to toivel in the ocean? That was the question. So toivel in the ocean. We're talking about the Pacific Ocean, right? Like sharks and Pacific Ocean, right? It's scary. So the Rosh Hashiva said to her, you can toivel in the ocean, but it's not lechatchila to toivel in the ocean because the person is scared in the ocean because of the poskim said, because of the waves and the animals and everything else, and you're going to be hamutz, and you shouldn't toivel in the ocean. So the Rebbetzin Scheinberg was standing in the kitchen overhearing this psak, and she says, Chaim, what are you talking about? For 3 years straight I toiveled in the ocean. And not only did I toivel in the ocean, but in the cold winter when it was below freezing, we had to break the ice, I toiveled in the ocean. In Europe. There was no mikveh. 3 years straight I toiveled in the ocean. Why are you telling her she can't toivel in the ocean? And he said, now, this is a real Rebbetzin. You got to always be choshesh that your Rebbetzin is listening. And even if she's nowhere in the city, she's listening. Somehow or another, she's listening. But the point is that, so you can toivel in the ocean, but and the ocean has, the poskim say there's a chasar to it, but the rice, it's actually a better tevila in the ocean. Because the zeichelin is natural in the ocean. By the way, if you go to toivel kalim sometimes in a river, which is 100% okay, so you toivel kalim in a river. So what if there's waves there just because of the wind and everything? There's some waves there. So you have to know if this was a man-made river or is this a natural river. In a lot of parks, they're not natural rivers. They're man-made rivers. They're reservoirs. Once there's a reservoir, so zeichlin is puzzle, and you can't toivel your kalim there, even if there's the slightest wave. So you can't toivel kalim in a river. And when we lived in Buffalo, and there was no mikveh for kalim at all, no such thing, and they wouldn't let people use the one women's mikveh for the kalim because it would get dirty. So I told people toivel in the snow, toivel b'sheleg. So as long as the snow comes down and it hasn't yet been shoveled, and it's not in a so you can put a keli into the snow and it's 100% lechatchila. It's a Meforish Mishnah. Once it was in a shovel or pushed by a car, then you can't toivel. And so, but the ruchnius of all this, whatever I get to, is that sometimes you have to be matar the nefesh, sometimes you have to be matar the ruach, and sometimes you have to be matar the neshama. Ironically, I think it's ironic. Ironically, you would think the chet of the neshama would require the most amount of tevilah, right? No, the chet of the neshama, because it's not really within me, it's just something I'm getting energy from. It's like the electricity in the wall. It's something I'm getting energy from. So there, mechatos v'tiher. There it's mechatos v'tiher. I need to connect. I need to connect. Whereas if my chet is beruach, and we can talk about which chatoim are b'nefesh, the Torah says, a chet beruach, that needs more tahara, and that needs a ma'ayon. And if a person is nefesh kisechta, so then you have to be toivel, then you're toivel in a mikveh. So those are the three madregas. So nefesh, ruach, neshama, three types of tevilah. And also, gimel lamas are keneged, right? Asiya, Yitzira, Bria. Bria is the world of neshamas. Yitzira has some formation. Also the three types of tahara. And machshava, dibur, and maisa. So like we all know this, that the machshava ra, lo mitzaref l'maisa, right? The person has a bad thought, not so good, But it's not it's not an Avera to have a bad thought. Unless you're thinking Avodah Zarah and Arayis, those two things, those the Averas and the Machshavas and Avera, Avodah Zarah and Arayis. But if you're thinking like, wow, I wish I had some, a ham sandwich, like you're hallucinating about having bacon and eggs or something, so it's not an Avera. You're allowed to hallucinate about it. You're allowed to think about it. You're allowed to fantasize about it. Machshava ra loy b'tzaref l'mayis. You're just not allowed to do it. You're not allowed to do it. But you're not allowed to even, imagine yourself worshiping Avodah Zarah or Arayis. Of course, that's it's tricky. So machshava is inyanim of the neshama. Same thing. Dibur is inyanim of the ruach. And Maisa is inyanim of the guf. Okay, is my introduction done? I just want to introduce here Hilchos Mikvahs and Hilchos Tahara into this idea here. So says the Nefesh Hachaim, Ukishem shekol gufa shel adam olam izdachech hayidei sekater v'amitzvos. Just like when a person learns Torah, there's a purification process. Now, remember, we're taking the mikvah, lama samach oyahalim l'nechalim. What does oyalim have to do with nechalim? Ma mikvah mataher, or a nachal is mataher. Same thing, Torah is mataher. So Torah can be mataher a person just like a mikvah is mataher. So I'm feeling that Torah can also be matayr to your point. Torah can also be matayr on three madregas. There's Torah lishma, Torah shalai lishma, hirhurei Torah. It could be matayr on Torah. Different people learn Torah different ways. So if you're learning Torah and your whole system is into it, your whole body's into it, your whole heart is into it, everything's into it. So it's like you went into a mikvah. And that'll be matayr, anything that requires a mikvah. If you're learning Torah but you're not completely into it, but I am in touch with the Torah, so then it's like a ma'ayon. And if it's a little bit of a sprinkling, then it's like mechatos, a little sprinkling of Torah. Can you imagine Torah on three levels like this? Torah is mechatos, Torah is ma'ayon. Should make a chart, yes? But you following me here? Five is the chart. Oh, you made a chart already. Did you write it in? Hey, everybody see?
But what? Just explain the different Torahs again.
How you see? Okay, let me explain. I spoke about on Thursday the Baal Tshuva dilemma. The Baal Tshuva dilemma is that you're not allowed to teach Torah to a Talmud She'eino Hagman. A Talmud She'eino Hagman is somebody who has no intention of keeping the Torah. Okay, I'm curious. I'm a biblical scholar. I'm a Middle Eastern scholar, and I want to hear. And he comes to my shir, and he wants to hear. Even Kabbalah, people like to learn Kabbalah. They have no belief in it, no interest in it from a nafshi point of view. They're just like interesting. It's cool. It's like interesting. Let's compare it to Buddhism. Let's just see. Let's look at comparative religion. So you're not allowed to teach Torah to such a person. Not allowed to. On the other hand, Chazal say that if you want to be makar of somebody and bring them around to Yiddishkeit, so you should learn Torah with them. Because Hamar Shabai, the light of the Torah itself, Machzir Lamutav. I think probably everybody who's about Shiva will recognize the fact that really what got them was not seeing codes on the wall or not chalent, as they say. It was they saw something very beautiful in the Torah, and it was Moshech. Probably everybody has had that experience. There's something there that's real and that's. The yakar that about Yitzchak.
Yitzchak didn't get the bracha, so.
That's right. You mean at the Kiddush, right? So what about it? Said over at the Kiddush with a small group. Let me just think if that's the Kli Yakar says that when Yitzchak, after he was in Gror is Azah. The Arabs still call Azah Grora. That's what they call it.
Okay.
Yeah, you can ask. Grara. Grara. Hokaze. No, and not only that, but like the Parsha, Grara means Aza, and Grara, all in Arabic, also means land which is very hard land, which is very like a piece of land you can't plant anything there. It's called Grara. Yeah, and Aza is called Grara, and Yitzchak went to Grar. Very interesting. And what happened over there? He couldn't plant anything. That's what he couldn't plant anything in Grar. Nothing was taking, so he tried to dig Mayanot. It's all very deep stuff. But later on, when he was sure, Rehovos, right? So when Hashem finally gave him a bracha, Hashem said to him that I will give you the bracha Ekev Asher Shama Avraham Bekoili, because Avraham listened to me. So the Kli Yakar says, Avraham, why don't you give Yitzchak? I was on the Akedah, hello, because my father listened to you. And by Yaakov it also says, by Avraham he got his own bracha, and by Yaakov he got his own bracha, and Yitzchak Ba'avur Ekev Asher Shama Avraham Bekoili. It's okay, you're Avraham's son, I like you. Like, what was the chasarn? So the Kli Yakar points out that the pshat is that Avraham and Yaakov both did something Yitzchak didn't do. They taught the Kara b'Shem Hashem. They taught Torah to other people. Yitzchak, we don't find anywhere that he taught Torah to other people until the very end of his life, and then he got a bracha. So he was missing that piece. In order to get the bracha, you can get a b'schus Avraham because your father taught people, but you yourself, if you're not Marbet started out, you can learn a simple lesson from here. But Ira is hearing something very, very deep. That what does it mean that I'm able to be mashpia on other people? The Torah went through me so much. I have such a bracha within me that everyone around me is magically attracted to it and is just transforming. You ever go sometimes you're around certain people and you just want to be good. There's such an energy, and sometimes you're around people and you want to run away. So let's go back to the mikvah over here. So Torah can work three ways also. Torah can work three ways also. It can be something which is like a neshama dika Torah. Let's call it for our purposes. Let's call it a feeling. There could be a Torah b'machshava. There could be Torah b'dibur, which is a deeper Torah, and that'll work sometimes. And then there's Torah l'maisa, Torah l'shma. I'm doing it, as he started off over here, in order to do Torah, do mitzvahs. I'm serious about this Torah. This is not the l'shma of Shardalad, where I'm learning Torah l'shma. I'm doing this because I'm serious about Torah. I'm serious about Torah. That's a nefesh thing. So there's three kinds of Torah, there's three kinds of mikvahs, and there's three kinds of Torah. So in Reb Tzadok, he says, with this I will close for today. Reb Tzadok says that, what does it mean, this Tzidkas HaTzadik? What does it mean that I'm learning Torah and I'm completely immersed in it, like a mikvah? What does it mean? So you're not leaving any part of yourself out. You could say that psychologically it means, like, I'm not really going to keep this, or I'll think about that, I'll consider this. But it seems like by Har Sinai there was Nasim and Ishma, like, teach us Torah, we'll do it. Teach me Torah. So Reb Tzadok says what it looks like is this: Divrei Torah sha'over, this in Reish Chaf Hei and Tzidkas HaTzadik. Divrei Torah sha'over in derech halev. That sometimes, in other words, machshava, but sometimes you get your leiv involved. Leiv is like the regesh, emotionally involved in Torah. So he says here, Divrei Torah sha'ovrin derech halev pirush sha'alev margish u'mispoil bahem hu nikra eitz chaim. That's called an eitz chaim. Ki halev mekor hachiyas k'may shekasa b'chol mishnah, brings a lot of psukim. So means that, what does it mean that, it's a little bit different than what you were saying. What does it mean that I'm learning Torah? All of me is learning Torah. It's a mikvah, mamash a mikvah. what does it mean to be completely immersed in Torah? That not just my toes, not just my brain, not just my hands, which are doing Maisa, not just my head, which is understanding it, but my lave, I actually feel it. It shakes me. It moves me. The Torah actually moves me. So if it's actually moving me, so that means the Torah went derech halev. Congratulations, you just went into the mikvah. The mikvah is, because the lave, he says, is the reish kol eivarm. Everything comes from the lave. And if, he says here something very, very beautiful and very, very special, that if Torah goes through the lave, if you could figure that out, like to make the Torah go through the lave, like, and I think, by the way, Chassidus and Musar and Ben Ish Chai, I think everybody understands that ultimately, you need the lave over here. Rachmana liba boy. Rachmana liba boy. Gemara in Shabbos Kuvav. Actually, there is no such Gemara. Everyone says it. The Gemara says, HaKadosh Baruch Hu liba boy. God wants your heart. Rashi says, Rachmana liba boy. Not sure what. It's a Rashi. It's a Rashi. Shabbos Kuvav on base. The Gemara there says interesting example of this. The Gemara says that they were comparing the learning of Eretz Yisrael and the learning of Bavel in the time of the Amoraim, and he was saying in Eretz Yisrael we learn everything up to Uksin, meaning we're learning Kol HaTorah Kula. In Eretz Yisrael, in Bavel we come here, and I see that all they learn is Nazikin all day. It's like a yeshiva or something. They're all learning Nazikin, like they don't know all of it. They don't know everything. They don't have like the Zilberman's method of learning. Like they don't know anything. So Rabbi, I believe, says in Shabbos Kuvav, he says, yeah, they learn a little bit of Torah, but it goes straight through them. HaKadosh Baruch Hu liba boy. It's so deep, the Torah. And that's what Rashi says. This was the Galus of Bavel, which made it go so deep within us. So there's quality and there's quantity, and that's Rachmana liba boy. So there's the Torah where you're in the mikvah, where your lave is there. There's a Torah of a mayon where I'm not completely immersed in it, but I'm all wet. And then there's the Torah of the neshama where I just have a feeling, I have a regesh that I really should be better, and I really should. You understand something, but it doesn't actually get into your. So lave is the kol gufay boy, and not lave. He says, and he says, if something is kol gufay boy, if you're in the mikvah and your lave, all the Torah goes through your lave. He says here, you'll never forget that Torah. The Torah will stay with you forever. The Torah you forget is when you learn Torah like Chachmas Chitzonius. If you learn Torah like you learn geography, you say, okay, I remember I studied something about it. But if you learn Torah with your lave, he says, it's like going to the mikvah. It's a complete body experience. So what's happening is that Torah will always stay with you. That's why the Mishnah says, quote Rabbi Tzadok, the Mishnah says that Kol Sheyirasai Kodemes L'Chachmasai Chachmasai Miskayemes. That if a person's Yer Shamayim is intact, so it means your heart is intact, so then your chachma will stay with you. It's not about memory. It's not about having a good memory. It's about that I've absorbed this, it's become a life experience. Once something's a life experience, we like telling stories of something that happened to us 30 years ago, 40 years ago, 50 years ago. How do you remember? You have a bad memory? The answer is like a life experience is there. It's within the person. So if you learn Torah with your lave, it's an experience of life. If you learn Torah not with your lave, so it's not completely there, but it's misakin the ruach. The ruach is chetzi l'Hashem, chetzi l'chem. And if you just have a machshava, so then if you don't concretize it, it doesn't mean anything, but it's a start, it's something. And that's the hazayev. He's all mechatas, spritz a little water on you just to wake you up to do tshuva. That's what it is. So he says here, the next, may I share with you, by the way, whenever you learn, I'm talking about learning different svarim. So whenever you learn a sefer, you have to know how the sefer works. So in Litvish's svarim, always starts with a kasha, and then says tshuva, and then sometimes at the end, if you're lucky, it gives you like what the lekach is, what the message is. In Reb Tzadok, he says the whole yesod at the first sentence every time. It's all there in the first sentence. Now I'll explain to you why I said that. Same thing as the Sfas Emes. Those two svarim starts off with the yesod. Good you said. It took me about 20 years to figure this out. So consider yourselves. She's got to. Then I saw this particular version of the Sitkis HaTzadik, which is a magnum opus for Reb Tzadok, which was put together by Eliyahu Kitov, has two things in it. One is there's a whole bunch of Reb Tzadok that they censored, and he put it back in. And second of all, it has the first line in bold. You see, why? Because you can just learn the first line, and you know what the whole thing. After that, it's just rayas. So the first line is here: Divrei Torah she'oivrin derech halev pirush she'alev margish u'mispal b'hem hu nikra Eitz Chaim v'samoy dechaya. Now the next paragraph. Kol echad yachol lahasik chachma v'divrei Torah. Let's say your heart is not into it. Torah is for everybody. Afal pi she'ein lo yiras chet kodemes. You have no Isarus, you're not into it at all. So what happens now? Even if you don't have any Mila in learning Torah, Mikol Makom, Hashem Yisparach Muchan Lashpia Tamid Divrei Torah Af B'lo Yisarus L'Sato. HaKadosh Baruch Hu is willing to give even if you're not taking. So there's a Torah which is Isarusa de Lasata, like mikvah, and then there's Torah Behiza Lav Mechata. Somebody else is actually, you're not even doing anything. Like Moshe said, you're walking, big oil shells, let me spritz you a little bit, right? People spritzing along, do me a favor, spritz me. What is it doing for me? If it's not coming from inside of me, what am I getting out of this spritz? Just think about all the different manifestations of this metaphor. It's just so amazing. Somebody from the outside is spritzing holy water on me. What's it doing? The answer is, it's giving me Isarusa de La'ela Kadosh Baruch Hu's Mashpia. It's raining. You don't want to take advantage of it, that's your problem. But it can start from there, Kadosh Baruch Hu, and that's Behiza Lav Mechatas. Mesakein, as the Svarim say, the neshama of an Avera. Mesakein, the neshama of Avera. So, okay, needs iyun, but what we do have in terms of a lineup is three kinds of Tara, three kinds of Torah, three kinds of Averas. And it all lines up perfectly.